Okay, so in this video we want to graph the function g of x equals negative square root of x minus 2. Notice the negative is outside the radical. Okay, so anytime we want to graph something and we don't know what the function looks like, we can make a t-chart. Say it, t-chart. Okay, so here's my t-chart, and on the left column is going to be my x value, my input. And on the right column is going to be my output, my y, or that's the same thing as my f of x. Okay, or in this case, I shouldn't put f of x, I should put g of x. Because that's what the function is g of x. And so we need to pick some inputs that will give us valid outputs. So let's say we pick 0. Okay, so let's say we want to plug in 0. Well, let's do that. Okay, so here I've got my function, and I've got g of 0 would be negative square root of 0 minus 2, which is negative square root of negative 2. Now, if you type the square root of negative 2 into your calculator, it's going to tell you it's undefined. And the reason is square root's asking you what times itself will give me negative 2. Well, if this right here is the same as this, then it always has to have an output that's positive. Okay, a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a positive is a positive. So I cannot take the square root of negative 2. So my output here is undefined. So I need to pick some outputs that actually will some inputs that will actually give me an output. Why don't we try 6 and 2 and 10 and 12. I just picked some random numbers. So let's plug 6 into the function. Okay, so I've got g of 6 equals the negative square root of 6 minus 2. And so g of 6 equals the negative square root of 4. And square root of 4 is 2, and so then you bring this negative with it, so the answer is negative 2. So when I input 6, my output is negative 2. Okay, now we can input 2 in our head. So let's put 2 right here where x is. 2 minus 2 is nothing, and the square root of nothing is nothing, and negative nothing is still nothing. So when I input 2, my output is 0. Okay, for 10 and 12, I'm going to use the calculator, so I'm going to plug 10 in. And so you can see I did the function negative square root of 10 minus 2, and my calculator told me my output is negative 2.828. So let's call that negative 2.89. Okay, so I'm going to go to my t-chart, and I'm going to put my output as negative 2.89. Okay, let's plug 12 in now. And so I'm going to go to my calculator, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 12 right there where that x is. Okay? Okay, so you can see right here I plugged 12 in for x, so I have negative square root of 12 minus 2. Okay, 12 minus 2 is 10, so this is the same thing as the negative square root of 10. Well, we know the square root of 9 is 3, so it makes sense that the square root of 10 is 3, a little over 3. But then we have this negative in front, which accounts for that negative, and so my output is negative 3.16. Okay, let's round it to negative 3.16. So my input was 12, and my output is negative 3.16. And so now what I need to do is I need to go to my graph, and I'm going to graph all 4 of those points. Okay, so I've got the point 0 undefined, I can't graph. Okay, but 6, right 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and down 2, 1, 2 is right here. Okay, and then 2, 0, right 2, and up and down 0's there. And then I've got 10 and negative 2.89, so that's right 10, okay, right 10, and down 2 point, there's 1, 2.89 will be somewhere in there, so let me draw that. Down 2.89 is somewhere right here. And then 12, negative 3.16, and so that's going to be right 12 and down 1, 2, 3.16 somewhere in here. So let me draw it right, say right there. Okay, so now let's connect those dots and see what our graph looks like. So it starts at 2, 0, and it kind of moves to the right like this. And you can see that what the graph's doing is it's moving down forever and to the right forever. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to talk about what is the domain of the function. Okay, and what is the range of the function. Now remember that domain, all you're telling when you talk about domain is you're saying how far left the function goes and how far right the function goes. That's what you're doing with domain. And you only look at the numbers on the x-axis to do that. So the function goes to the left. The furthest left the function goes on the x-axis is right here at 2. Okay, so 2 is our furthest left, and then we can see that the function's going right forever, right? It's going right forever, and that right forever is called positive infinity. Now notice that I put the 2 in a bracket because the 2's included. See how I have a closed circle at 2? But infinity goes in parentheses because infinity is an idea, not a number. And so we put it in a parentheses because it's not included. You can't include something that's not a number. It's an idea. So now let's talk about the range. Okay, well, if domain goes from left to right, then range goes from bottom to top. So we tell how low it goes, and then we tell how high it goes. Well, the lowest it goes, check this graph out. This graph is going down forever. Even though it's going down very slowly, it's still going down forever. Well, what do we call down forever? We call that negative infinity, not positive infinity. Down is negative, okay? And then the highest it goes is right here. Now, some of you will mess up and call that 2. But remember, when we're talking about range, we only look at the y-axis. Okay, well, if I look at the y-axis, here are my numbers on the y-axis. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, right here, 0. Well, the graph doesn't go any higher than 0. And so it goes from negative infinity all the way to 0, and 0 is included, right? And so you don't say that 2 is the highest it goes because 2 is on the x-axis when range is the y-axis. Well, if I look at the y-axis, here's -1 and here's 0, and that's the highest it goes is at 0.